Hey, I'm Nellie Munro. I'm a Scottish writer living in America. And while I've spent years writing technical content for my job as a marketer, I am focusing this year on my dream of writing a book. If you're just starting your writing journey too, then this channel is for you. In today's video, I'm covering practical tips to help you become better as a writer. Let's dive in. First of all, let's look at some of the best resources available to you on YouTube. When I was starting to think about writing my own book, one of the things that I did was watch Brandon Sanderson's 2020 lecture series. I'll link that down below for you. Now, these are actual lectures that he delivered in 2020 at BYU. He taught a creative writing class there, and what I really liked about it is that it's university level. So if you're someone that has a little bit of imposter syndrome because you're not formally educated in creative writing, then this definitely helps with that. They'll definitely help you feel more confident by giving you guidance directly from a successful author. While Sanderson's lectures focus mostly on writing as a fantasy author, you can take a lot of what he says regardless of your genre. He goes into world building, creating good characters, as well as story structure and other great aspects of writing. So if you're completely new to creative writing, I would definitely start here. It is a bit of a time commitment. They are longer form videos and there's quite a few of them. But it's an excellent all-in-one resource that even covers some publishing stuff at the end. If you want something that is in more bite-sized format, maybe some shorter videos, not quite as long as Sanderson's, Abby Emmons has a really great playlist called New Writers Start Here. Her teaching style is really upbeat and approachable. Abby's videos are packed with really useful information for new writers, like crafting your inciting incident, developing subplots, crafting plot twists. So if you feel like you might be overwhelmed by everything that's in Sanderson's lectures, then Abby Emmons would be a really good option for you instead. Another useful YouTube resource for new writers would be Heart Breathings. Her channel is different again from Abby's and Sanderson's. I would say hers has a lot of focus on productivity and staying on track as a writer and goal setting. She has a writing tips playlist that would be really useful for new writers. Her writing tips playlist has some really interesting stuff in there, like writing stories with multiple POVs and how to set yourself some realistic writing goals. If you're someone who struggles to stay focused, her strategies to help you manage your time and build habits will definitely get you on the road to success. On her channel, you'll find different things like how to get over common challenges you'll find as a writer, as well as things like avoiding burnout, sticking to deadlines, and staying focused, which is all really important if you want to write that book this year. I found it's been a really good resource for helping to balance the creative and practical sides of writing, and I'm sure you'll find it really useful too. I just quickly wanted to say that although I've mentioned a few YouTube channels, I'm not by any means saying that those are the only YouTube channels you should watch. There are so many great creators out there on authortube. They're just some that I think would be really helpful for those of you starting out as a new writer this year. Best craft books on writing. With regards to the best craft books that I've found so far, the darling of authortube has got to be Save the Cat Writes a Novel. I think most of us on here have probably read it. If you've not read it, you've at least heard about it, I'm sure. If you're writing your first novel and you're unsure about how to structure a story, Save the Cat Writes a Novel is going to save your ass. Here it is right here, Save the Cat Writes a Novel. This book is by Jessica Brody and it's based on the books by Blake Snyder. This book has been adapted for novel writing. It was originally written about screenplay, but a story's a story. With story structure, what Save the Cat does is it breaks down the structure of a book into sections or beats as they call it. So what I love about this book is that it's incredibly beginner friendly, but it's also useful enough that someone who's got some more experience with writing would still pull it down off the shelf from time to time to have a look at it. It guides you through figuring out the best genre for your book if you haven't already decided on that. And it also helps you try to build a plot that will hook readers, which is really important. So even if you're more of a pantser, flying by the seat of your pants if you're not aware of the term, rather than a plotter, which is someone who plans out their book before they write it. I think either way, you're going to find this book beneficial. The foundational knowledge in this book can help you bring some structure to your story without stifling your creativity. You can decide how deeply you want to plan everything out, if at all. And honestly, whether you're writing your very first draft or you're going back and you're reviewing one, this book really is a must-have for understanding the key components of storytelling. Next up, we have The Writer's Guide to Beginnings by Paula Meunier. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. This is it right here. And while this one's definitely not essential for you when you're starting out as a writer, I know that a lot of people get really anxious about the start of their book. You hear all these tales about how if the start of your book isn't good, readers are going to put it down and never look at it again. So there's definitely a lot of anxiety attached to the beginning of a book. Hence why, if that is something that is stopping you from progressing in your writing, then this book is going to be helpful to you. So what I loved about this book is that it has really practical exercises scattered throughout it that you can use to actively help you work through your ideas, refine your opening chapters, and create a hook that really grabs readers right from the start. And honestly, the exercises are so good for sparking creativity, and they're just a lot of fun. Paula's advice in the book is really straightforward and actionable. It's really just a fantastic tool to help you feel confident about the start of your book. The next book that I have in the best craft books on writing section is not technically a craft book, so please do forgive me. It's definitely something that's going to be useful to you as a beginner writer to help you improve. Here we have The Emotional Wound Thesaurus. Now, there are a variety of different books in this series. The Conflict Thesaurus, the Emotions Thesaurus, there's a whole bunch of different ones. This just happens to be the one that I own because I thought it would be the most useful for my book. This book is by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. Again, sorry if I'm not saying that right. This book is going to help you create really emotionally complex and compelling characters. It's a really good resource for helping you deep dive into your character's past and really understand who they are and how they would behave throughout your story. Now, this isn't just good for beginner writers. I know that there are lots of more experienced writers out there who have these on their shelves and pull them down from time to time. So, for example, I've opened it here at a page on toxic relationships. Hand up if you've been in a toxic relationship, guys. But it has a general note section on the topic of toxic relationships, followed by some examples of what that would look like. Someone who's constantly lying or controls the other person. False beliefs that your character could embrace because of this situation. It tells you what the character might be afraid of. Personality traits that they might form because they've been in a toxic relationship. Both attributes and flaws, it tells you, could become timid, weak-willed, or subservient from being in a toxic relationship. Then it also goes on to talk about possible triggers, and it talks about opportunities to face or overcome this wound. As you can see, that's just one aspect, and this book is chock full of different wounds and how all these different ways that it can affect your character, the character's personality, their reactions to different situations. So it's really going to help you make these really complex and believable characters. What are other ways that you can improve your writing? Develop a writing routine. Consistent writing routine is going to be the best way for you to make sure and guarantee your progress on your book. Your writing routine doesn't need to be rigid, set in stone. It doesn't need to be hugely time consuming, but you do need to make sure that you're making time every day or every other day to make progress towards your goal. And even if it is just a small amount, a couple of 100 words a day, by the end of the week, you're going to have over 1,000 words down. It does add up, so even small amounts of writing are so worth it. The simple truth is, and this might hurt to hear it, but you're never going to write the book unless you sit down and get to writing. That is one of the most difficult things to face, because if you're anything like me, you might feel like you are going to be on this search for knowledge. You have to learn everything that there is to possibly learn about writing a book before you can even start. It's not true. You need to just start. You're never going to get anywhere unless you start. The best way to learn is by getting started. At some point, you just have to take that leap and start putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboards and getting some words on the page. Building a writing routine, what exactly is involved in that? Well, it's going to be different for everyone. Not everybody has the same amount of time per day that they can put towards writing. Now, if you struggle with finding time, try a few different approaches. Try maybe writing for an hour in the morning, getting up a little bit earlier before you go to work, or take your laptop with you to work if it's safe to do so, and write in your lunch break. Or maybe spending a little bit of time that you'd normally be browsing YouTube in the evening before bed, maybe just try and knock out a few hundred words at that point instead. And you'll go to bed feeling nice and satisfied that you've made some progress towards your goals. And speaking of progress, another great way to help yourself improve as a beginner writer is by tracking your progress. And you can do that in something called TrackBear. So tracking your progress with TrackBear, if you've ever wondered how much you're actually writing and how much you're actually getting done, this is going to help you figure that out. So with TrackBear, it's really flexible. If you don't want to track your word count specifically, you can track how much time you're dedicating to your writing, or you can even track chapters as you're finishing them, if you wanted to go that route. There's a lot of flexibility with it. It's completely free. It's not an app. You do use it in your browser. It's a really simple tool and it will help you achieve your goals. It helps you visualize how you're doing in respect to your target. So for instance, I wanted to be able to do another 80,000 words this year before Christmas, and TrackBear shows me a graph, and as I write, I'm putting in my word count every day, and it plots that on this chart, and I can see if I am following the trajectory that I need to finish in time or if I'm falling behind. So it's a really good way to visualize your progress and meet your goals. The next thing that you can do to improve as a beginner writer is to start reading within your genre. Not only does this help you understand the typical conventions and structures and the expectations in your chosen genre, it also gives you really good insights into what works and what doesn't. I have no idea what I just did to the mic there. There's buttons. I pushed them. I don't know what they do. The more that you read in your genre, you might start to notice different aspects that you can utilize to your advantage. So say for example that you read a lot of romance and you want to write your own romance novel. You might be looking for that perfect romance book, but you just can't find one that covers all the things that you really like in a romance book. Maybe it's a very particular niche or subgenre, and none of them are quite the book that you really want to read. That could be a sign that that's the book you're meant to write. And I'm sure there's other people out there that are looking for that book too. So that's one part of reading in your genre, is you realise where the gaps are in the market. Now, another really good reason to read in your genre is you can see what works for the successful authors that are already out there writing those books. How do they hook their readers? How do they suck you in so that you want to keep turning the page chapter after chapter and not put that book down? Those are the skills that you need to learn how to replicate if you want your books to be just as successful. And finally, another really good thing about reading in your genre is you're going to find comp titles, so competitive titles. These are books that share similarities with your own, either in tone, in certain plot points, or in their general theme. These are really useful for when you're trying to pitch your book to an agent if you want to be traditionally published, or if you're self-publishing. They're also really useful for readers because it lets both readers and agents know if this book is something that they would be interested in based on what you compare it to and what is similar in the market. Another way that you can improve as a beginner writer is by connecting with other writers. So, if you are lucky enough to be in an area where there are writers' groups or workshops that you can join, then definitely do that. That is going to be a great asset to you. In those groups, you're going to find great critique partners. You're going to have the knowledge and the experience of all those other writers that you can ask questions and really learn from. Not all of us are in the position to have writers' groups locally that we can participate in. And if that's the case for you, then don't worry. There are lots of online places where you can meet other writers. YouTube, for example, or authortube, where there's a bunch of us authors out here. There also are Discord servers, Reddit. There's a whole bunch of different places that you can find authors lurking on the internet. So go out there, find yourself some author buddies. You won't regret it. Writing can be a little bit isolating, and it can be difficult for your friends and family who are not writers to really understand why you're so excited about finishing that chapter or about your character arc or whatever it is that you're excited about. Don't expect people who are not writers to share your enthusiasm, and that's okay. Reading is something that some people find really tedious and difficult. Not everyone finds it relaxing, so a lot of people might not even understand why on earth you'd want to write a book in the first place. Hence why it's so important to get yourself a little community of people who do understand. And honestly, if you're struggling, and I mean this, feel free to reach out to me, shoot me a message, and let's chat. I will be excited about your book with you. Writing might be a solitary activity, but it does not have to be lonely. Another really important part of improving as a writer is to learn not to compare yourself to other writers. So as much as communities like authortube are a really good way of finding other writers who you can talk to, share your frustrations with, share your excitement with, be aware of the trap of comparison, because it's very easy to look at someone posting really big word counts, like I wrote 50,000 words this weekend with one eye closed and a hand tied behind my back. And that's great, and I'm super stoked for them. Could I replicate something like that? There is not a chance in hell. And that's perfectly fine. You need to make sure that you're enjoying the journey, and if you're constantly trying to churn out massive volumes of words to keep up with others in your community, then it's going to start to feel like a chore and you're possibly going to give up. So it's really important not to compare yourself with some of these other writers. They might be doing it commercially, they might have done it for a really long time, or they might be writing about something that they're very familiar with, which definitely makes things easier. You might be writing your very first book, so that's going to require a lot more research into structure, plot points, character development, all those kinds of things. That's going to slow you down, but that's okay because you're learning, and the more you learn, the better your book's going to be. Might also be writing something that requires a lot of research, like a historical or period piece, which is going to require you to learn a lot about that period that you're writing in. Everyone's got different goals, everyone's doing different things. Do not compare yourself to others. The best thing to compare yourself to is yourself. Have you learned anything new about writing recently? Have you challenged yourself to read a craft book or go to an online writing sprint this month? Or have you completed those chapters that you said you were going to get finished before you went on vacation? That's the sort of comparisons you should be making. Like, how much have you developed as a writer in this past amount of time? Rather than, oh dang, I can't do 20,000 words in a day, so I guess I'm not cut out to be a writer. Absolutely not. It doesn't matter how fast you go, you can still get that book written. It might take you longer than the person sitting next to you, but your book might also be entirely different from theirs. So do not let comparison steal your joy or, heaven forbid, stop you from writing altogether. Do your own thing, do it at your own pace, and enjoy the process. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this useful, and I hope that it inspires you to keep writing and keep at your writing journey. And if you liked this video, please give me a little thumbs up and hit subscribe. My goal this year is to reach 100 subscribers. I'd love your help to make that happen. Thanks again, and until next time, keep writing. I'll see you in the next video.